Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Kevin Moore Show. Now, if you want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, just click that subscribe button below, as it really helps to support the show. If you're new to the show, I interview guests from a spiritual perspective, covering mainstream and alternative subjects and much more. Now, on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Fred Motzer. Now, Fred was born into modest circumstances in the Netherlands. Fred Motzer was thrown unexpectedly at a young age into a real estate career that led him into considerable wealth. Now, following some extraordinary transcendental experiences, Fred set himself on a journey of personal discovery. His global travel plans opened his heart and mind to the needs of humanity, and he has since dedicated his life to humanitarianism projects and his spiritual path. And he joins me today to discuss this and much more. Fred Motzer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on. And before we started recording, we were discussing, what's the most important thing that you want to discuss in the show. And one of them is obviously your humanitarianism work, but most importantly to you is your consciousness work. Now, why is that important?
Well, before the mid-'80s, I was having quite a normal life, a sequential life, where everything happens one after the other on a sort kind of timeline. And then in the mid-'80s, I had several experiences where I was taken away from the sequential way of experiencing, and I was brought in you could perhaps call it a nearly spaceless space in which I got enormous clarity and a very good feeling. I felt loved beyond borders. And when I came back from those states, I came to see that apparently my brain rhythm reduced and was not so much filtered by perception through my senses, but that I was free from my senses. And so it was that I could have that profound experience. So on this side, here in this show, yes, life goes on sequentially in a lateral way. But being in that experience was also infinite. So it had no beginning nor an end. And and that's the paradox, at a certain moment ended, was at the moment that I thought, why me? And then all of a sudden, I was part of the lateral world.
How do you embrace that into day-to-day living? I mean, so what if you've gone through that? I mean, you've still got to be here.
Yeah, which is fine. And the fact that I was part of this gives me a kind of certainty that I'm here to develop my consciousness. So to take develops away in order to experience that unconditional love and to learn to act accordingly, which, by the way, is what I often call the process of healing. Healing is to become one with the whole and all, the universe. So where all the borders fall away, where there are no conditions.
And what does life look like lived from that space?
Yeah, I would say that's difficult to express, but I just try to express it in a way. Other people would describe it perhaps as pure bliss. Pure bliss. And in a human way, you could say it as an eternal orgasm, but then in a spiritual way, not in a physical way.
And how does one get there?
Well, there are many inroads. The most known is the one meditation, to be able to quiet down your brain rhythm. It's possible to do it with classical music. It can be enhanced with, for example, which I had, the administration of condensed nutmeg I had a treatment way back in the mid 80s, and an American person, he gave it to me with eating a lot of half cooked vegetables, drinking 2 liters of water, a profound massage, and this minusculous portion. And this minusculous portion of condensed nutmeg was an invention of Dr. Jonas Salk, the father of the polio vaccine, whom was treated by this guy that treated me himself with this nutmeg. Yeah, and that brought me in a most interesting situation in one of those sessions, which was in the French or Swiss Alps, sorry, where all of a sudden I became aware and said to the man in the room, Sally is breaking her collarbone and she will be here in 10 minutes to say that she needs an ambulance to go to the hospital. And so it was that 10 minutes later, she was there saying that she needed a hospital and that she had broken her collarbone. And from that moment on, my question started, how is it possible that I'm connected with information that I cannot perceive through my senses? So apparently there were taken away hurdles or barriers through which being taken away, I was connected with that information. And since then, I start on the path to find out how I can, what I later learned to call, how can I take away the altar? Basically, in essence, when you take the altar away, you become one with the whole and all. Not that I need to live all the time like that, but it's lovely to be aware of and be part of it, and not for any curious reason, but because I really do know that life is not only a given to me, but also a gift. And when I receive a gift, I can be grateful in expressing my talents for humanity, myself, and nature, or anything.
Just going back to that story you were describing there, I really didn't keep up with you there. You had a voice come to you when you was having a massage, and that voice told you that the next client for this surgeon was someone that's come in to have a broken neck?
Sorry. I may not have expressed myself clearly. I was aware, it wasn't, something, it became clear to me that Sally, who was skiing on the slopes in that Swiss winter sports resort, that she broke her collarbone.
Oh, you was at a Swiss. Okay, yeah. I totally lost you there. Yeah. Okay, so you was at a Swiss resort, some skiing resort, and what was you doing there? You was getting a massage or something?
Yeah, I got that treatment. A friend of mine said, please consult. May I offer you a gift to have a session with this American healer? Because he healed me, and I know that diabetes is running in your family, so you might have a latency to get it. So he might be helpful. And that was the inroad to this experience. And the treatment had several components. So the first one was that I had to eat freshly cooked vegetables, and by the way, also brown rice, and drink 2 liters of water. And then I was given that minusculous portion of condensed nutmeg. After that, to describe it more in detail, I went into a hot bath. And after the hot bath, I got a profound massage. And while the music was playing of We Are the World, you may remember that song of the mid-'80s, I got that insight that I just described and shared with you.
Hang on. That insight. So what? You'd had a download that someone had hurt themselves on the slope.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah. I just did. There was so many things not connected there. I was like, what the hell? Okay. Right. Okay. So what you're saying is that from from that knowing that there had been an accident, then you thought that well, actually, what was that? So you're saying that you was in a deep, profound state of some sort of transcendentness, that
Yes,
that you had left your
transcendent.
body. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, later on, I heard that you would describe that as a state of transcendence and leaving the body. Yeah, I was aware in two senses. One in the sense I was in the room and I was not in the room. So the room nor the skin of my body were the borders of my consciousness. I was not limited by that.
And that was just one of many experiences of knowing that there was something more, basically.
Yeah, many, several, perhaps altogether 30 or so in my life.
Okay, okay. I should have said this at the beginning of the interview, actually, because it's interesting where you're at. You're based in Holland. You're in the Netherlands.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. And you've always lived there, obviously. Um,
Yeah, with the exception of 2 years in Geneva.
okay. So I don't know when it was. I'm pausing there because I'm thinking I don't know when it was, so I'll let you explain it. At some point, you was involved in your father's successful real estate agency business, or it was something much more bigger than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, the story is the following. My father was the first real estate developer in the Netherlands, a modest and very bright man who loved to be creative. And during his life, he developed Parkinson and diabetes. And back in 64, to my surprise, he asked me to come and work in his company. The intention always was that my younger brother, Paul, who was the business talent, would take over. But he said, I'm getting more and more, worse and worse. So my health is deteriorating, and please join me. So I said I will join for a year to do the test, but it became clear that it was not possible to withdraw. And so it was that I found myself for 19 years in the company, most of the time being the CEO, and doing it in the beginning together with my dad. But he passed away in 1977. So that was the first part of my life, really being feet on the ground, building shopping centers, houses, apartments, offices, soccer stadium, etc.
When did you? Well, have you retired from that? Have you walked away from that? Is that now
Oh
all
yeah,
over?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I stayed on a daily basis until 82, 83, and then I started to volunteer at the Red Cross Red Crescent in Geneva, where I learned a big lesson. In 83, 5 million children under 5 died related to the dehydration that is caused by diarrhea. Was the biggest cause of death in the world, and nobody knew about it. And it was very, very interesting to get to understand what happened. With diarrhea, the immune system goes down because of the dehydration. And through a magical trick, oral rehydration salts, if you give a child or anybody a combination of sugar, salt, and water, in 90% of the cases, the child will recuperate and heal. And the magic about it is so the components, sugar, salt, water, there can be found inclusive everywhere on the planet. No expensive doctor nor nurse need to attend. It's it is highly effective. So low cost, high effect, and no no other people involved, and it's natural. So when I got that experience and I looked at the world in an all-inclusive system, the solutions are all around. Why are we people excluding? and making pharmaceutical products and things that you make money with. So the fact that it was so cheap was also the reason why it was not marketed. There was no margin to be for marketing, and where the illness was around was with the poorest of the poorest. So the question also came up: how can we, with at that time I think 5 million people, all being part on the globe, co-travelers in time and space, why just do we leave them on the side of the road?
You retire from the company in 1982. Tell me if I've got the dates wrong. Just speak over me if I have.
Yeah, 82, right. And then
82.
83.
Was there any kids or family or?
Yes, at the time I was married and I had three lovely daughters. They're still healthy and
Yep. Have they
grown up.
taken over the business? Did that business continue?
Oh no, the business basically it was owned by the family, by alas, my brother Paul. He died. He took his own life. So I only remained with my two sisters. In the late 80s, I bought the shares of the company of my sisters because we all, in 1977, when my dad died, got a substantial inheritance. And in 1996, I sold the company. So we're not connected anymore for a long time, 25 years now.
Okay. Oh, the company was sold. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And that must have left you then with a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, that we already, as I mentioned, when dad died in 77, we got a substantial
And
inheritance.
what are we talking, like millions or
Millions.
millions? Wow. What does that feel like to have that sort of money back in the day? What did that I can't imagine that.
Well, great responsibility.
In what
Yeah.
sense?
Well, you own monetary value. And the further you come in life, you become aware what money can do. And nearly always the thing that money do, that people do with money, is to make it more. So the bank or whoever is involved even doesn't question. Nobody questions if you really add value to contribute to society, to help the poor, to maintain nature, and all those kind of things. And the older I get, the more I see how important it is to do a little contribution in that field.
Yeah, I think to myself sometimes, God, man, what would it be like to have just, mega amounts of money and to be able to live from a space of doing what, that you may really want to do, not what you're doing right now just to make the money. And I think a lot of us do that, don't we? We
I was part of that too.
Yeah, but you're talking about millions. I'm talking about just normal
Oh,
people
sorry.
who no, don't be sorry. No, I'm just saying like the average person, even like myself, who is, may never see that in their lifetime, that type of money. And but or any large amounts of like, well, what would that, having that money, what would that allow me to think differently? What would I do differently if I had that? Or could I act from that space even if I don't have it? And I don't know if you can do, because if you haven't got it, then it's very difficult to take the risk to act from a different space as though you've got it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making sense. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we're meant to have so much money. I mean, more important is to have a good heart, a clear mind, and yeah, willingness to learn and to help.
No, I mean that's it. Some people are not meant to maybe experience that in their particular lifetime. Maybe you and are supposed to, experience that type of wealth. but I guess my point of this is also, you know, did you not think that, well, okay, I could go do the humanitarian work, but the problem is one day that money's going to run out. So maybe I should, also have something ticking in the background going along to keep the wealth coming in, so that the philanthropy kind of work that I want to do as a humanitarian can sort of continue.
Yeah, I do it both ways. So yeah, and so a very vast amount I'm now not owning anymore because I gave it to what you would call in the United States a 501c3 foundation. Several, 23 now, I founded or during the last nearly 40 years. And so we try to use that for the common good. And that's also a responsibility. You do that, of course, with the board. No, not for nothing. It's 501c3 foundation. So you have a vote, but you don't have the dominant vote because you can always be outvoted.
Yeah, I guess the 80s seem like a long time ago now, don't they? Um, so so again, what triggered you to want to go in what you call humanitarianism, or other people have turned for you? What did you call it at the time? You didn't call it humanitarianism, did you? That you were doing? You just did. What
Well,
did you call it?
at the time, I wanted, and this is basically the foundation on under all the foundations, is to contribute to the harmony within oneself, harmony between people, and harmony between man, people, and their environment. So, and that means that if I can help to de stress people, they have the chance to come closer to their hearts and make more heart based decisions than cold rational decisions.
So you talk about coming from a heart space and making a decision from that space. But then what has that got to do with the oral rehydration that we spoke about before with the children, where you founded that sort of project? How's that connected?
So, well, basically, I became aware that there's a very simple, low cost intervention of which the components can be found anywhere in nature and everybody can give it. And it was the biggest cause of death in the mid 80s. So my heart connected with the problem, and my mind knew there's work to do. So it's important to promote this intervention and help people, to give them the knowledge and the trust that there is hope with this intervention. And it taught me, for example, that yes, indeed, me with a white face, I can go to Africa and tell people what they should do. But I know I don't like people that tell me what I should do. So why would they? So I learned there that it's important to be patient. And when you talk with the people in an African village, that you have the honest willingness to open your heart and listen to their stories. So that there's coming an exchange of information, that you build bridges of trust. And when the bridges of trust are built, people can open hearts and minds and be open for the suggestions, in this case, to use oral rehydration salts.
So what was your involvement there? What
I was, so say, the boss of the Child Alive program. And my boss was the Secretary General of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies worldwide. The League of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies now, what is it called? Different, not League, but anyway, other name. And the national Red Crosses, they could hire us, so we would come over and be of assistance to them how to approach this problem. And that's what we did. And I often went with our leading medical doctor, nurses, and worked a lot with the local
Okay.
people.
Was there a financial contribution from you for that?
Um, well, yeah, personally, but that was my choice at the time. That financially I contributed to the setting up of the program because there was not enough money to start with.
Yeah. Do you ever feel with stuff like that? And tell me if I'm wrong, or you disagree. But of course, that why can't their governments have this in place in the why can't their own governments help them?
Yeah, first of all, the idea of a government is a Western idea, and it goes with Western values like this is mine and that's yours, and that's all documented. And what we do often, we sell democracy or the idea of a state to parts of Africa. And then we think that the people understand that the same way as we do. So, yeah, that depends very much on the country and the people involved. So that's often a struggle hill up.
What made you want to go so far out when people in your own country were struggling with other issues and you could have helped people closer to you rather than going all that way out?
Yeah, at the time, yeah, what I said, I got because I said to the boss before I started working at the Red Cross, here I am, I'm all yours to volunteer. And then he made me aware of this problem, and I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? Such a great problem and a amazing solution. I mean, imagine that we would have such a solution for COVID right now, wherever it happens to be over there. So yeah, why not? Not that I couldn't help people in the Netherlands, which we have done afterwards and still are doing a lot right now. But we are still also working with refugees, with malaria, with other kind of problems in other countries that we support.
So this continues now. What you're doing, what you just described
Oh
there.
yeah. We're full into it. We employ 8 people.
And who is this we? What is this? Is some organization you've got now, or?
Yeah, there are basically 4 active organizations. The most known is the Fred Foundation. Then we have Flow Fund, in which we have basically all the money. It serves as a kind of bank, and there we try to invest as green and as social as possible. Then we have Foundation Cry of the Heart, where we help people, not on request, but we find them that are just in big need for whatever reason. We have this foundation Forest Peace, with which foundation we buy forest and agricultural land and help to transform them back into nature. And the last foundation, the youngest one, is called Essentia Foundation, which is meant to promote the school of idealism or non-dualism.
By doing the work that you're doing, then having all these organizations and non-for-profits and the work that you've been doing, do you? I guess, God, I guess. Do you ever question it that you're satisfied with what you're doing? Is there ever times when that you wish you were not doing these things, or you were doing more or less?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's what I said. I feel responsible, and being 76, I may have 20 years to go, and I feel it a big responsibility to help the value that is expressed in money to transform that into non-money, into real value. And that's what we do through these foundations.
Right. And are these Dutch foundations?
Yeah, all of them.
All of them are Dutch foundations. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
which doesn't say that they work in many countries.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So So that's taken up a lot of your time over the many decades, I guess, right? And you've also pursued your spiritual side as well. Would you say that's true? That statement?
Definitely.
Yeah. And what have you pursued on the spiritual side as you've gone on to do this humanitarian work?
Yeah, I don't pursue. I mean, it's more like allowing me the experience, the joy, um, to use also not only my mental faculty, but my feeling faculty, both ways to be informed, to be in contact with information, all that expresses itself in form, and to find my way to the labyrinth of life.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost the feeling I get from you is that it's almost like yeah, what you're doing now with all this humanitarianism work is almost like you're able to see it from a spiritual perspective, and you're able to almost feel like that you're it's your way of giving back. It's your way of being your own version of source, isn't it? Your own version of God, in a sense, or an aspect of that to help others that or to change lives in a sense, to
Yeah,
manifest
no, no, I
differences.
can. Yeah, I cannot change a life. I can also, I can only help people if I have helped myself enough. Otherwise, I export stress into already vulnerable communities. So I'm not the helper, like, oh, here I am, I will help you. That's quite an arrogant attitude. It is more that you make yourself available and that you start a dialogue and bridging trust.
But haven't you helped yourself already with the time that you put into your father's business, leading up to the sale of that business? Wasn't that, in a sense, that's been your financial help to yourself? I guess you're talking about help in the sense of working on yourself. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, not so much financial. It's just to work on yourself to clean up and always ask yourself why I am doing it. Can I
And why are you doing it?
improve it?
Why are you doing this? Why do you continue?
Well, as I mentioned, my life has is not only a given but a gift from the Creator, with which I described earlier. I've been in the infinite and experienced a huge level of love.
What was one of the most profound transcendental experiences out of the seven that you have?
Yeah, well, I think I already described it. The feeling of pure bliss. But what often in interviews I'm also often asked, can you give me an perhaps an easier example with which it is more easy to associate with for the people that listen? And then I take an example which happened 30, 35 years ago. I was in the, you may remember, the Concertgebouw, concert building in the center of Amsterdam. And it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. And I went with my then wife to listen to a concert. And you may relate to that. You see people walk into the auditorium. You say, hello, how are you? Are you fine? Okay. And I'm sitting there in a chair and think, gee, tomorrow I have to work 9 o'clock. Oh, I still tonight I have to prepare so and so. I have to read these documents and I have to call Mr. Johnson or whatever. And anyway, that so for 5, 10 minutes, and slowly you feel that people are settled, sitting down, and you listen to the attunement of the players in the orchestra, and then the conductor starts to play music with the orchestra. And then I found myself in the following situation, Kevin. I listen to the music. I become calmer and calmer. And at a certain moment, the music comes into me, and then I become the music until the moment that I think, oh, tomorrow it's Monday. And then I listen to the music. And I'm not one anymore with the music. That's a very simple one. Sunday afternoon, cup of tea.
That's beautiful, and I really appreciate you sharing that as well, right? And just to making the conversation go in that direction, just to put that in this. I'm not looking for oneness. I'll be honest, or anything bliss like that. I'm just looking for, what am I looking for? Um, I don't know, and that's
That's
okay as well.
okay.
I think that's okay
Yeah,
as well.
fine.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, yeah. Um, just getting by day right now.
Hmm.
I'm just that's probably about it. And but I think the idea of this, always being in that space of, or if as a society we could come to a space where, where we're spiritually evolved, and we're coming from a different presence with our actions to each other. Maybe this time in reality it's just not meant to be like that. Do you know what I mean? That the times that we live in right now, and being on planet Earth, this is the way it's supposed to be. Um, this is what we came here for. And this whole idea of, transforming Earth to be a higher consciousness and all this, well, fantastic. But I think maybe that is more of the case of, we'll get there when we die. Do you know what I mean? When we cross over and go back home, that is the time to experience stuff like that. To try to think that we're going to, you know, see that type of transformation on this level. Maybe at a soul level, we don't want that.
Hmm. Well, we have free choice, That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if we were aware of what our soul really wanted, what if it wants the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and that's why we come here, and it's very important to have this experience and not to bypass it. I don't know. What do you think of that?
What's all possible? I mean, yeah, I've experienced, of course, also many things that you describe as well, that belongs to life. Sex, sex, drugs, rock and roll.
We are surrounded by people who are switched off to their own idea that there's more than this, and that's also perfect as well. And to think that, that the world would be in a better place if it was a kumbaya, walking around in, the white dresses, and or whatever. Do you know what I mean? White clothes, and being Jesus like all the time. I just don't see it. But I just don't see that's the reason we've come here for. But that's just my take on it.
No, as long as you allow them to be who they want to be and allow it yourself, everything is fine.
Absolutely, it is. But I just think sometimes there are fantastic ways to bring about a more balance in our life, maybe. And I think that's what your documentary and book are about. Because let's just go back to one of the important things you said. You said, and your book and documentary talk about this. You said, allow your mind to serve your heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you do start coming from that space, then what you're saying is that is a really empowered place to come from. Even though, well, I could say a lot about it. It doesn't matter what I've got to say. Let's just hear what you've got to say. That's what is important, isn't it, to you?
Sorry, that's important. It is important to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm learning that making thousands of mistakes every day.
And that's also okay as well.
That's okay. Yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Join the club.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I could go into that. Don't worry. Yeah. Okay. So, I think something important you said in this book as well. Actually, just getting to the book as well, because I know I've rambled on and destroyed some of this interview by taking up time that maybe some people won't think it's important, but whatever. You say with the book is called Beyond Us, and the documentary is called Beyond Me. So I think the documentary came first. Am I right to say that?
Correct. Yeah. And in the tale of making the documentary, we started to write the book.
What was the emphasis for the documentary? What inspired you to do this documentary, and where can people find it? And just very briefly, what is it about?
Yeah, there's a trailer you can look at, 3 minutes, but basically it's about consciousness, and I am try to take the audience and the people that watch the video by the hand through my life to a little bit give an idea how I came from a just normal life like everybody to somebody with perhaps some special um, experiences and the way I have responded to those experiences. And yeah, it's a story about the road to experience more and more unconditional love and to learn to act accordingly.
Okay, and so that's the same for the documentary and the film. And the documentary they can find at.
Beyond Me documentary, one word, beyondmedocumentary.org.
And the book's available on Amazon and all good
Yeah.
bookstores. Okay, so just go into the book as well. You talk about you talk about. Let's just go back to the heart thing. You talk about, is this decision I'm about to make the best for the whole, well, for the all and the planet? So when you're what you're saying there is when you're considering a decision or a big decision, you're talking about how does this affect everyone? Is that right?
No, well, that, of course, well, basically that that is, yeah, it's indeed, I understand the question because the formulation that I use is very abstract, but I'm it's just what is under your nose. So what is in your field of influence, and then connect with the participants in it, and always ask if you're welcome, and always ask if they want to communicate, and then decide on projects like we do with the refugees now, like we do in helping to change behavior in a part of Amsterdam with 100,000 people from many different cultures to connect with women that are pregnant or have just given birth around the first 1,000 days to change behavior to help them to sleep better, to meditate, to yoga, to eat vegetarian food or Mediterranean food and help to relieve their stress and guide them. We stepped in for 10 years to slowly, yeah, change behavior, not to tell them that they should, but to make them feel safe with changed lifestyles. That, as you know, the gap between, in this case, the Netherlands, the poorest 20% and the most rich 20%, they have a life expectancy difference of I think 15 years now. Yeah, I think 15, perhaps on the high side, but it's huge. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so well that's one example. And so yeah, you're not saying, I get you now. So you that's makes more sense. But still, to sort of narrow that down, yeah,
By the
you're
way,
saying
I have to correct it. I think it's 8 years. That's too much.
okay, 8 years. Okay.
Yeah, I think yeah.
So yeah, it's the people around you in your little circle, and just make yeah, and again filtering it through the heart. You also say in your book that sometimes we're our own misunderstanding.
Yeah, and I do that with a twink, just to yeah. So we are running around, not even knowing what we're doing. So basically, say we are lived by people that are their own misunderstanding. We are it ourselves. It just is a way of saying, let's wake up. and be aware of what we're doing, and perhaps go out of the treadmill and try to make new, better, and better choices in our life.
Okay, break that down again. So better choices from the perspective that you're saying that we are no, you need to break that down a bit further. That's not too clear. I don't get that.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's another part to it. Understanding relates to the use of the mental faculty, the ratio. And that is the one of the inroads through which we get an information from other people, but also from infinity in, say, potential transcendent state. But the sister of the mental faculty is the feeling faculty and the intuition. And we are trained to use our mental faculty, and so we trust it a lot because we're trained to do it. But we're not really trained to get the information, take the information serious that come through the intuitive and feeling faculty. And I often try to say, and also to myself, trust your feelings. It's pre-words. Yeah.
Trust your feelings, yeah. And when you've always gone down that path, it's always led you to the right outcome.
I'm not saying that, because your feelings can be just, how do you call it, painted by emotions. And a feeling for me is just I feel something. It's like playing the string on a bass. The bass has no opinion, just allows the tone to go through. An emotion is the burden on the feeling. It's like a piece of chewing gum that asks all the attention through which the bass plays falls. So if I have the awareness and the clarity to go what the root of the emotion is, it will melt and I will be back in my feelings.
Interesting. I think that going with your feelings, even if it feels or looks like it's led you down a wrong path, it's not. It's not. It's what you needed to experience. There are no mistakes, just experiences. And but we do have a brain we do have a brain, and sometimes it is good to employ the logical and the feeling together. No?
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we've got 5 minutes left. We are no clearer. No, we are a little bit clearer. I'm joking, right? Okay. Well, I know that you need to get going, and we've barely touched on your work. And when I say touched on your work, I guess we've kind of gone over some things that I thought might be interesting to talk about as we have this open discussion with each other.
We can do another one if you like.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. Let's just. How would you want to end this, or how should we end this? In the sense that I always do this, but what is an important message, do you think, of what you're doing, of your work?
To help people remind of that we have everyday new choices. Basically, that are indeed what you said, there are no mistakes, there are experiences. And I invite people, including myself, to be forgiving to myself and others. And if you go flat on your face, stand up again. We're there. And also, when you need help, ask for help. Most people are willing to help.
I say that's really great stuff that you've just said there as well. That's people that I'll listen back to as well, just to remind myself that of sometimes. So, websites. Is there any websites that you want to promote that we haven't mentioned?
Yeah, Fred Foundation is a good one. Then the Essentia Foundation and Forest Peace. So Fred Foundation, Essentia Foundation, and Forest Peace.
Well, I thank you for your humanitarianism and your the help and all the amazing companies and projects that you've got going in the Netherlands, and the many, 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 many years and decades that you've put into continuing this work. Hats off to you as well. And I hope you can be a role model for other people who may be, thinking of something similar as well. So I'll just say. Fred, thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me, Kevin. And I wish you all miles of smiles, sprinkles of twinkles, and lots of love. And stay in touch with the Dutch.